New York Attorney General's office has issued subpoenas to officials in the Cuomo administration. That's part of their investigation into sexual harassment accusations that have been made against that governor.
So Democratic strategist, council member at large from Montgomery County, Will Jawando, and White House reporter for Real Clear Politics, Philip Wegman, they join us now to discuss. Will, let me start with you. The ground is really falling out from Andrew Cuomo. There have been multiple referrals there that have been made. The latest one around using state power in order to provide special services to his brother, Chris Cuomo, and many other friends and family. What do you make of the political crisis around the governor right now?
Well, I think you let in appropriately that it's really caving in around him. The irony isn't lost on me, and maybe some others will remember. In 2019, New York passed a law, which actually I recently passed in Montgomery County, to lower the burden of proof for harassment and sexual harassment from this severe and pervasive standard to something more than a petty slight or trivial occurrence. And that is the same law that will now be used by the very capable Tish James to investigate and potentially prosecute these multiple acts by the governor. And I think that's not insignificant. And obviously you layer on when we're in the vaccine Hunger Games, people remember there were before that you had a testing issue where you couldn't get testing, and people remember how hard it was for their family and friends to know what was going on, and that certainly doesn't make anyone feel good about the governor. So I think he's in serious trouble. I mean, but he's stubborn, he's resilient, and he's saying that he's going to fight it out. But I think he's got significant headwinds that he's facing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just scandal on every front. It started with the nursing home crisis and cover up, the lies around that, very Trumpian, I might say. Then you had multiple, felt like every couple of days, new allegations of sexual harassment. Now, Sagar and Will were both talking about this, these allegations, reporting that there was VIP treatment given to his friends and family in the early days of the pandemic when you could not get COVID testing. They were having public doctors, state doctors, showing up their house, swabbing them, state troopers, then taking those swabs to the lab where they jump ahead of everyone and make sure they can get their test results, even while thousands and thousands, probably millions of New Yorkers wanted to know what was going on with their health and were unable to get those answers. Phil, do you think that he ultimately is going to pay a price for all of this? It is ironic, too, that it is Letitia James, as Will was saying, who is leading the investigation on a number of these fronts, both the nursing home and the sexual harassment. She secured that position in part because of his endorsement. So the tables have really turned here.
Well, it's clear thus far that Governor Cuomo's plan is just to wait this out. He's got 3 scandals on his hand. The first is the testing one that you just laid out. The second is what was happening with seniors in nursing homes and the decisions that he made to send COVID positive patients there. Then there are all of these sexual harassment allegations. Those are 3 scandals that under normal times, even a really popular governor, even one who was propped up by national media repeatedly, probably couldn't survive. But I think that Cuomo is looking around. He saw what happened to Northam earlier, in the last couple of years, and he's probably thought to himself, there's no reason to resign early and give the appearance of guilt. Instead, I'm going to ride this out. But when you have these 2 twin investigations by the state attorney general, and you're a staffer in Cuomo's office, you don't have the same green pastures for your post governor's office career. You're thinking about what's going to be best for you. And so I imagine that we're going to get more sordid details because some of these aides to the governor, are going to be looking to save their own skin while Cuomo is looking forward to just riding off into the sunset and being forgotten.
Well, Will, that's my question, which is when does the dam break in terms of institutional Democratic support? Because we've seen that Joe Biden has already come out and said, well, Cuomo very well could be prosecuted, but it's saying, well, we'll wait for the facts. New York's, both of their senators have called for him to resign. There are articles of impeachment which are moving in the New York State Assembly, but he still maintains some institutional Democratic support. At what point does that fall away?
Yeah, well, I think to my colleague's point here, once the new information comes out, I think the staffers, as they prepare to be interviewed again by a very capable Tish James and her team, I think that's going to crumble, and new information will come out if it's there. I mean, I think it's likely there is some there, but from what we've seen, you've seen all these different allegations come out. It's kind of been a drip, because it's multiple investigations on multiple fronts. At some point, they're going to say, look, you got to step aside. And Cuomo will either realize that or not. I don't know. The only thing that's the kind of the wild card for me is I don't think he has much of an incentive to do anything until the very, very last minute. So I think, and just his personality, my wife's from New York and she's been in meetings with him. And we know how stubborn he is. So I think he probably hangs it out.
Stubborn's a word.
And that's the other thing, though, Phil, is once you get in hot water like this and there's blood in the water, there are a lot of people in New York politics, including some who work directly for the governor, who do not like this guy, who would love the opportunity to stick the knife in. That creates a possibility of a lot of fertile ground for investigators here, because you probably have a lot of people who are ready to tell their stories. It's part of why we've seen so much come out already in these various scandals. It's because people hate this guy.
Yeah, you don't want to give people an incentive to be disloyal to you. You don't want to give people an incentive to stab you in the back. And judging from the behavior of the New York governor, it seems like he thought to himself, all right, how do I act like a tough guy, old school political boss from central casting? Oh, I'll berate my staff. I'll be super aggressive with reporters. I won't tell the truth. I'll demand things for myself that I don't offer to others. And he fits the playbill. I don't think that there's a lot of goodwill stored up there. And at this point, since the boat is sinking, it's only a question of when. I think that you're going to have people, again, looking around and saying to themselves, how can I save my skin? Because I'm not going to go out of my way to do any favors for Cuomo. If I was a staffer in his office right now, I think that I would not be deleting any emails for fear of perjury, but also because in those emails from top aides who mimicked his behavior, that might be my out. It might be an opportunity to not go to HR, but to go to investigators.
That's a great point, Phil.
Could I just add?
Yeah,
one
please
thing?
Go ahead.
Republicans again are happy to see this, and while we as Democrats, I think rightfully in this area, we should take the high road and do the investigation. If you look at obviously the previous president and all sorts of other cases, there's not a lot of precedent for Republicans stepping down and stepping away. But we should investigate it. Tish James will, but I'm sure they're pretty happy about watching all this fallout.
Well, yeah, I'm sure they are, but they don't have much of a career winning state office in New York at this point. So I think it's actually a pretty good opportunity for progressives to get one of their biggest adversaries out of a significant position of power. All right, gentlemen, stick with us. More Team Rising right after this.